Hi, everybody. Welcome to Sarah Abbott Life Coaching. My name is Sarah, and I'm the life coach here. Today, I have my dear friend, Cathy Quidachay. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Okay. Quidachay here to tell us her story about what the Lord has done in her life. And I am super excited because I've only heard parts of this from family friends. So I'm really honored to have you, Cathy. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. So go ahead, girl. Tell me your story.
Well, I'm going to start out when I was a little girl, because really, honestly, that's where it all began. When I was little, I grew up as with a single mom. My little brother and my father left when I was 3, and so we never saw him again.
Mm.
So my mom, I didn't know at the time, but she suffered from mental illness.
Mm.
And so she was incapable of really showing love and affection. And so I lacked that. I always felt I never felt really loved. And then around when I was about 10, she was searching and she would take me to different places. She was searching for God and at that time. And so she would take me to the Mormon church. She would take me to Jehovah's Witness. She would take me to different places. And then one Sunday, she took me to a Full Gospels. I was 10 years old. And I felt something I had never felt before, something so powerful. And I accepted Jesus at 10 and I was speaking in tongues and just, it was an incredible experience.
Wow.
And then she started taking us to Catherine Kuhlman Miracle Crusades with 15,000 people. I saw the Lord do miracles, people out of their wheelchairs. It was just something so
Mm.
amazing. And but then going through my teenage years, I just wanted love, and so I got pregnant when I was 15,
Mm.
and I ended up marrying the father of my baby. And he was an alcoholic.
Mm.
And he started abusing me physically, emotionally. And I was so young. And so when I turned 17, a friend invited me to church, and at
Mm.
that time I rededicated my life to the Lord because I missed that feeling that I felt when I was 10 years old. And so but I then had another baby, and so I I continue to take my kids to church. I had a third child through all that, and still um, going through a lot of abuse. So Sunday was a day of peace, and then Monday through Saturday was really hard.
Mm.
And I worked and hid my bruises and my pain from everyone else. So
Mm.
nobody really knew really was what was going on. And he was in and out of jail. And then that went on for 22 years. And then
Wow.
left.
Till you were, how old were you when it ended?
I was 41.
Wow.
So from the time I was 15 until I was 41.
Wow.
So he left
Mm.
uh with another woman.
Mm.
And during that time, I really didn't know who I was.
Mm.
Now, mind you, I continue to take my kids to church every Sunday. My children knew the Lord and
Mm.
they loved Jesus, regardless of what I went through.
Mm.
And although they've had to deal with certain things from the trauma from their childhood, as well as myself. And um, so during that time, we went through the divorce, and I just really made a commitment that day that I was going to give myself fully to Jesus. And that's when my life started changing. When I completely 100% surrendered everything.
Yeah.
I think it took the point of driving down 116 one Sunday, and right after he left, and just wanting to end my life. And I felt the presence of the Lord, and he said, I'm not done with you.
Oh.
So at that moment, I knew that God had a calling on my life.
Mm.
So yes, so for the next 12 years, I went on missionary trips. I preached in the Philippines, in Mexico, and different places. The Lord restored the things that the enemy had stolen. When I was 15, I'm sorry, when I was 50, I got to meet my dad again, because I he left when I was 3.
Wow.
So eh, through for the next 8 years, we reconnected, and now he's been living with me for 6 years. So that was one of the things that God restored in my life, as I now have a relationship with my dad, and I take care of him.
Mm.
And that's only by the grace of God.
Yeah.
That's only by the grace of God. People ask me, how can you forgive your dad? He left you. He was never there for you. But that's what Jesus does.
Mm.
And so, yeah. And after 12 years, God brought an amazing man into my life who treats me like a princess. And I am so blessed. And I want to share that in 2017, a year after I married, I lost my son. He was going to be 34. It was a really, really devastating and a hard time in my life. But if I didn't have Jesus, didn't, if he wasn't my solid foundation, I couldn't have made it through. And I don't know how anybody who loses a child can go through that grief without the Lord.
Yeah.
And I have that promise that I will see him again.
Yeah.
And that is what sustained me and still sustains me to this day, that I know I'm going to see my son again.
Mm.
So yeah, God has been so good in my life. I'm now elder in the church. My husband's on the board. We are serving God, and God is a God of restoration.
Yeah.
And I'm just, there's so many things that I could share, but we'd be here all day. The miracles that God has done in my life,
Mm.
how he's brought me through some of the most really even dangerous times in my life, how he's protected me, how he's covered me. He provided for my children supernaturally when I was by myself.
Mm.
He's done so much, and I'm just so grateful. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, so I have a question.
Mhm.
It sounds like you hid the domestic violence from other people.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
I know that's very common, and will you explain to us why did you do that?
Well, I felt shame,
Mm.
and I was afraid of being alone, and being a young mom at 15, I I just thought that was normal, you
Mm.
know. A- and I just desperately wanted love. I didn't want to be alone. And so it
Mm.
took me removing myself from that situation to realize that it wasn't okay. And I had no self-esteem. Because that's what the abuser does, is that they tear you down so that you have no self-esteem, and you feel like you deserve that. And I just wanted to keep my family together. But what I didn't realize at the time, and mind you, I've had to forgive myself, is that I wasn't helping my children. I was hurting them, because
Mm.
we were in this situation. And it's taken me many years to forgive myself for that. Um, and so when I talk to other women who are in those situations, or walking out of the situations, I always counsel them that be safe first. I remind them who they are in Christ, and work on themselves. So that Jesus will bring them through, because that's not what Jesus wants. That wasn't his best for me. I know that now.
Yeah.
Um, But also, I have to say there was purpose in my pain, because now I can share with other women that they can be free, that they don't have to live like that.
Mm.
And that's where I know that God's protection was on me through that season. So,
That's beautiful.
yeah.
So, Alan, your wonderful husband, who really is one of the kindest people on the planet,
Yeah.
most wonderful person. He shared with me, I think in your teenage or 20s, was there some like um was it like gang life or something?
Yeah, when growing up in LA,
Oh, okay.
you had, you felt like you had to associate with one group or another. I am Hispanic, and I felt that I needed to kind of go that way. I felt, and so I started getting in fights and, involved with the gangs. But when I had my daughter, I really stepped away from that life, because I didn't want that for her.
Mhm.
At that time, my husband was he was being pursued by a rival gang. And so we had to take our daughter and move from Los Angeles to Northern California for his protection and our protection.
So
Mhm.
that's how you ended up here in Northern California.
How I ended up in Northern California.
Interesting.
Mhm.
And can I ask you how your relationship with your mom has been in your adult life?
It's been very difficult, and I know those who have family members who suffer from mental illness, schizophrenia particularly, um, manic depressant. It's a very difficult journey. And so she has, unfortunately, I am kind of like the enemy in
Mhm.
many senses. So for some reason, I feel like I trigger her, because she had a very volatile relationship with her own mother, and
Mhm.
so it's very difficult. So I we don't really have a close as I would
Mhm.
want to, and I continue to pray for her. But the mental illness is really, really difficult. And I'm sure, like I said, those who have family members like that can understand that. Yeah.
Yes. That's a new realization I've had with my clients is a lot of people are dealing with addiction in the family. That is very difficult. But boy, the mental illness, especially when you get into severe mental illnesses,
Yes.
it is
Yes. It's
so, it's the hardest thing.
it's hardest, and it's really difficult when they will not admit or see that
Yep.
there is an issue, that nobody's pursuing them, that nobody's chasing them or hiding, trying to spy on them. It's really hard.
Yeah.
And so unfortunately she will not take medication, and it's very difficult. It's been very, very difficult.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry to hear that. Yes, you are not alone. That is a very common story with people who grew up with mental illness.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, you said you did not feel loved by your mother growing up, and your father left at 3. So, I guess I'm just kind of curious if you were to like take a string through your whole lifespan.
Mhm.
Obviously, everybody desperately desires to feel loved.
Mhm.
And so, what did that look like for you at different life stages? How were you able to find love? I guess is what I or how did God show up for you in that way? Or
I, honestly, the my children, my children, your children love you unconditionally.
yeah.
But honestly, for the Lord, this is why at 17, when I rededicated my life,
Mhm.
his love is what sustained me. I knew without a shadow of the doubt that he loved me. And I think the full realization of that didn't come until I went through my divorce. but I always knew that he loved me. That's why, despite all those years,
Mhm.
I still went to church every Sunday. I went to Bible studies. I never
Mhm.
turned from my faith
Mm.
throughout all those years from the time I was 17.
Wow, that's amazing.
He's the only one who can really fill those voids.
Yes, that's right. And the humans in our life will let us down
Yeah, they will. They
inevitably.
will.
That's very beautiful. So you have two living children
Two
and
daughters.
they're, oh, daughters.
Mhm.
Okay. And there's some generational sin going back with your mom struggled and then she struggled with her mom. So what is your relationship like with your kids now?
So we have, it's beautiful. My girls and I are very close, but it was very difficult. With my older daughter
Mhm.
because I was 15 when I had her. So we grew up together.
Yeah.
So we went through many, many challenges.
Yeah.
Um, I think the boundary of I'm your mom, you're my daughter. It was more like, no, I'm your sister.
Yeah.
And so,
Well, plus you were not parented.
and I
So
wasn't parented
how
either.
did you even have an imprint for how to do that?
I didn't know how to be a parent.
Yep.
Um, it wasn't honestly until I had my son that, mothers and women in the church would really help me because I didn't know how. And so my older daughter, her personality is she's a strong-willed child. She was a
Mhm.
strong-willed child. So only those who have raised a strong-willed child will understand that.
Yeah.
that to the max. um,
Okay.
so and she which is, if you can raise a strong-willed child and really veer them the right way, they're amazing human beings
Yeah.
and can accomplish so much. And let me tell you, she has in her careers, in her everything she does, she's really successful because she's very strong. um so that but being young and not knowing how to how to do that, it was really hard. And so we struggled a lot. Um yeah, it was very, so we've had to work through some stuff. Even in her teenage years, there was a lot of rebellion. And I think she her resentment towards her dad was turned towards me, her anger. And so that was difficult. But as she became an adult and when she became a mother, things kind of changed a little bit. So, and now
Um,
we have a great relationship. We travel together when she travels for work. So I go up with her sometimes on her trips, which is really great. And my younger daughter and we have a really great relationship. She lives in town and I see her all the time. And I love being my grandkids involved in their lives. So I have 6 beautiful grandchildren and 1 great granddaughter.
oh my gosh.
So my granddaughter, God is so good. She was born 2 days after we lost my son. So
Oh,
she's our little precious miracle and Analea. So
Annalie.
she's now 7 years old.
Oh, was that your son's daughter?
No, so she's my great granddaughter. So she was my older daughter's daughter, baby. So
Well, that's
Analea
one
was.
nice thing about starting early. You get to enjoy your generations.
Yes,
That's
yes,
beautiful.
exactly,
Mhm.
exactly.
Oh, that's beautiful. So tell me what your life is like now.
Wow. Well, I'm busy. I stay busy. I take care of my dad. And so I'm his caregiver and he's now 84.
Wow.
I am a loan officer, so I do loans. I do home loans,
Mhm.
and I am an elder in our church.
Mhm.
My husband and I co-lead our host team at church,
Oh,
which is huge. We have a big team,
mm,
probably about 30. volunteers. And so we stay busy between home life, work, and ministry. Um,
Mhm.
and also travel. We travel a lot to Texas because that's where my husband's family lives. So we go visit often, and of course, mission trips whenever God opens the opportunity. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
And would you be willing to tell us how God brought restoration with you and your dad? Like, how did that whole thing play out?
Well, when I really never had a relationship with him, I think twice I talked to him on the phone when I was an adult, and he's not a very social person, doesn't show his emotions. He had been married 8 times.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. And so his wife passed away the year I got married, probably about a month or two after, and they were getting ready to move from Missouri to, well, let me go back. So when I turned 50, my brother moved to Missouri, and so he said, would you like to meet Dad? I found him. He lives in Missouri.
Mm,
So I flew out there and we met, and
mm,
it was instant. There was just a connection there, even though, you know, there wasn't a lot of conversation, but it
mm,
was just, he just felt like he's my dad.
mm,
And so we talked. I visited a couple times throughout the years. Then his wife passed away a few months after Alan and I got married
mm,
in 2016. And then he moved to Michigan by himself. And unfortunately, he was beaten, robbed
mm.
uh, during that time, and he was 78 years old.
Oh my gosh.
So my brother and I went and got him. We drove him back here,
Wow.
and he came to live with me, and he's been with me ever since. Yeah,
That's beautiful.
yeah, yeah. God is a God of redemption, and He is so good. And my kids, they've never had a grandfather. So my uh, their father's dad passed away before they were all born. So
Oh,
they've never had a grandfather, and to have him in their life has been really, really great. To have him
wow.
part of the family, and they just love it. So yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, Kathy, thank you for sharing your story with
Uh,
us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Is there anything you feel led to add, or you feel pretty done?
Yeah, just know who you are. If you've gone through abuse or you are in that situation, know that God loves you and that's not his best for you. Um, you just need to know that.
That's
And
beautiful.
yeah, God is a God of restoration and redemption, and whatever that looks like for you, just surrender. And that's what really took for me, is just surrendering everything I had to him. And he's restored everything and more.
And more. Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's really beautiful because I think pastors do a much better job now, but I think for some women, they're still, if you are a believer, it's like it's hard to leave your husband, right? Like with the stigma of divorce. So I love your testimony as like, this is not what Jesus is best for you is.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And God
I
would
would
never
tell
want his precious daughters to be treated that way.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And I would tell every woman that.
Yes.
And yes,
And the toll on the children. Like, many,
yes,
many women, they think they're staying for the kids, but when there is physical abuse
right.
or emotional or mental abuse, the children are suffering.
They do suffer. And I see the difference with my older daughter and my younger daughter, because my younger daughter really didn't she wasn't around her dad a lot. He was in and out of jail. He was gone a lot of the time, but my older daughter spent more time with him, and she's had to struggle through so many things, and broken relationships with men and issues with men. And so her first marriage, he was abusive, and so she's had to come out of a lot of stuff, almost kind of the same track. She was married for 18 years. And so it really does affect the children. My son dealt with PTSD, severe PTSD. And so, my advice to every woman is, be safe. Your your children are better off out of that situation. It's not God's best for you, and it's not God's best for them.
Right. And you are a living testimony that there may be a man out there for you,
Yes,
like Alan,
exactly, exactly.
who is
And
so
don't settle. Wait for
don't
God's
settle.
best.
Amen,
It
sister.
took 12 years, but you know what? In those 12 years, I served the Lord. I went on mission trips. I put God first, and God brought Alan into my life.
Oh,
And so that is, and also in that season, I had to get healed
yeah.
because I was very broken. I didn't even know what color I liked. It was all about him. And so
Mhm.
I had to learn how to love myself, how to
Mhm.
forgive myself, most first and foremost, to forgive myself.
Mhm.
And then really, just give it all to Jesus, and
Mhm.
he will send you the best.
Oh, I love that. Thank you, Kathy. That is a beautiful testimony to the power of the Lord, and I am really honored that you shared it with us.
Thank you for having me. I
Thank you
really
so
appreciate
much.
it.
Okay, take care.
Bye. God bless.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.